Hey everybody, this week on the Inktwell, we're taking a look at the Sailor Pro Gear Slim Graphite Lighthouse with a broad nib. So, as is the case with most new pens, this one comes in a white cardboard slipcover, and normally these are pretty useless, but in this case, our slipcover here took one for the team and protected the inner case from whatever left this nice blue scuff. Tossing that aside though, let's go ahead and take a look at this inner box. And here we have our faux leather blue box with Sailor stamped across the top in a nice golden color. I don't know why, but the small petty part of me was disappointed that it's not gold leaf. I mean, I know it's just a box, but how cool would that be if the packaging came in gold leaf? That would be awesome. Moving on though, the gold trim does continue along the outside of the box and follows us into the box on the upper part of the clamshell. And here's also where we get our first good look at the pen itself. Before we get to that though, let's go ahead and take a look at what comes inside the box as well, which is really just the necessities of 2 cartridges and the warranty care guide. Enough box talk though, let's go ahead and take a look at the PGS itself. Looking at the Sailor Pro Gear Slim Graphite Lighthouse, 2 things come to mind. The first is that this pen has an awkwardly long name that trips me up at least 50% of the time. The second is that these clear acrylic finials really do tie the overall look of this pen together. After an exhaustive Google image search of about, 40 minutes, I came to the conclusion that this really isn't a new concept for Sailor because they've done stuff like this in the past. I mean, take the Tequila Sunrise, for example, with the clear and red translucent finials. But this is definitely their most understated attempt at this type of idea. I say understated because at first, it looks like a boring gray pen. But once you take a look at the small details, like how the anchor floats above the rest of the cap, the good looks really do start to sink in. And the silver trim is a really good complement to the body that we get in this elegant cap, followed by the cap band, which, by the way, here we've got Sailor Japan, founded 1911, nice touch, along with the secondary cap band right there. And you also get a small separator band at the end of the body between the body and that final finial. It's small touches like that that really add to this pen. And under the cap, we have the star of the show, which, in all honesty, is the nib. If there's one thing that Sailor does well, it really is their nibs on the Pro Gear line. The nibs that I've used on the standard line, they don't hold up to these in my mind, and this 14 karat hard broad is superb. The line width is much the same that you would find on a European medium, but the flow is definitely broad, and you'll see that here in a second when we do the writing sample. Before we get to that though, one last body detail, and it's one of the things that's kind of a little bit divisive when it comes to Sailor, and that would be the Sailor converter. I don't know what it is. I've had some good luck on my Pro Gear converters at least. I mean, I always get a good seal. I never have issues filling them. And this one is a really good converter, but some of the other horror stories I've heard of Sailor converters, well, that's a story for another time. So let's go ahead and get on to that writing sample. Now for this one, I'm using Waterman Serenity Blue. Normally I'd use an Old Faithful like Diatramentus Petrol, but I felt like doing something, a little bit of a shake-up here, and going with an ink I normally don't reach for. I've been told it's a good flowing ink that can occasionally tend to dry, so this ought to be fun. And for the paper, we are pulling out our trusty Endless Works notebook with Tomoe River paper. And I'm also going to make use of this telephoto lens on my camera and zoom in so you can see the sample a little bit better. It's not a constant aperture lens though, so it's going to get a little darker in here, but I want you to get a closer look. It's not really about the color of the ink for this one. It's about the flow of the nib. Now, enjoy some smooth jazz while I do some writing. There we go. So, as you can see, we've got some really good flow from this nib, which, given that, I was expecting the smear to be, a little bit further across the page, but the ink really caught me off guard. You win this time, Waterman. You win this time. Back to the nib, however, though. I was expecting exactly what I got. I mean, it was smooth to the paper, there's no skipping whatsoever, and when the nib is the workhorse of a pen, this is one of those times where I would bet the farm on this horse any day of the week. So let's go ahead and talk final thoughts on the Pro Gear Slim. So I'm going to start with my overall and explain it from there. This pen gets a solid 9 out of 10. For people that need a longer pen, then get the regular Pro Gear. It will suit your needs just fine. For people like me that have a short or a medium hand, this one will strike home. It's weighted beautifully, and posting it really doesn't throw off the balance at all. And the pen is equipped with this 14-karat Pro Gear nib, which means you can expect a good writing experience out of the box. Where I deduct points, though, is the color. While the finials are on point, and there's no point deduction for that, when you look at the press photos of this pen, like the one in the upper left-hand corner there, you can see that those come out much darker than the reality of the pen, and that's where it falls short for me. The heart and soul of what makes a Pro Gear is on point, but the lighter shade of gray is what sees me breaking up with this pen, and it's probably going to move on so it can make room for another pen in my collection, like either another Pro Gear or, who knows, maybe a King of Pen. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the review. Thank you guys for watching. If you're new to the channel, then click subscribe and keep an eye out weekly for new videos. Don't forget to like and comment down below, or dislike if you hate smooth jazz. Other than that, check out our channel sponsor Pen Chalet by clicking the link down below and using the code INKDWELL10 for 10% off site-wide. And if you like podcasts, then check out my podcast, Two Guys Zero Planners, that I do with Urban Hafner from FPC Inc. It's a really good stationery podcast, and I think you'll enjoy it. Speaking of which, I need to go look at this week's show notes, so I'll see you subscribblers next time.